Good evening, everybody. The Republican Party is still quaking and quivering today, shaken by unforeseen events in most cases, like the House Republicans losing that impeachment vote against Alejandro Mayorkas, while the Senate Republicans shut down the so-called bipartisan border bill and elevated the issue of Mitch McConnell's future to urgent levels. His scurrilous attempt to give the Marxist Dems everything and Joe Biden everything that they could want on the border and illegal immigration, plus $60 billion for Ukraine as the centerpiece of the evil ruse that McConnell tried to pull off against his own party, against this nation. It was breathtaking. And he is still the leader in a weak and sinister form. A leader, nonetheless. The GOP senators are truly, if they leave him as leader, say for the next week, he is true. Well, he has to go. And if they don't send him, they're truly puny and pitiful creatures without hope. And they need to replace McConnell as soon as humanly possible. We take up the big issues here tonight. President Trump wins Nevada. He crushes Nikki Haley, even though he wasn't on the ballot and she was. He's expected to win all of Nevada's 26 Republican nominating delegates in tomorrow's caucuses. President Trump building considerable momentum. And the House Republican Party failed to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. The final vote included every Democrat and a trio of, well, darn fools and stooges for the Marxists and the cartels. They are in order of ascending degrees of duplicity. Ken Buck of Colorado, Tom McClintock of California, and Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin. Those three stooges that when they are most needed, they are the least of us. The three refuse to join their colleagues and do what is needed to be done for the good of America, for the security of the nation, and not the party, not a donor, but for America. Listen to how the Marxist Democrats cheered when they won that vote with the sorry stooge helpers.
On this vote, the yeas are 214 and the nays are 216. The resolution is not adopted.
You can see the sting of defeat on Speaker Johnson's face, and it should be no surprise. What to me is surprising is that Johnson took the vote, and I give him great credit for doing it. While I'm as disappointed as anyone in the outcome, I am thrilled to have on the record just how this Congress voted on a clear-cut, moral, and patriotic issue, an issue critical to the Republic. And those three Republicans, their names will always be, in my opinion, objects of contempt. So what were their excuses? I think that really is an interesting part of the story as well. McClintock said his colleagues failed to, quote, identify an impeachable crime that Mayorkas has committed. Oh, my Lord. Buck claimed that nothing Mayorkas has done could rise to, quote, what our founders considered an impeachable offense. We are dealing with something very special here, and that's outright lies. Clearly, he's not impeachable when two representatives believe betrayal of oath of office, lying to the American people, and lying to the U.S. Congress repeatedly, while working with the Mexican drug cartels to import illegal immigrants and fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans a year, and sex trafficking women and children. Those aren't high crimes against the nation? What planet are these fools from? And Gallagher, he's supposed to be a smart guy. He warned in a Wall Street Journal op-ed that impeaching Mayorkas would, quote, set a dangerous new precedent that would be used against future Republican administrations. Well, he's a lousy patriot, but at least he's worried about the party. How about that? Gallagher is perhaps the most mendacious of these three because he chairs a committee on the Chinese Communist Party. He knows the role of China in those American fentanyl deaths, their role in bringing in tens of thousands of military-age males across that border that is now under the control of the Mexican drug cartels. Not Mayorkas, not the Department of Homeland Security, the Border Patrol. No, they're under the control of the cartels. There are, right now, gangs of illegal immigrants of numerous nationalities rampaging through American communities. Thank you, Congressman Gallagher. Thank you for your concern for the Republican Party. In New York, these recently arrived gangs are using mopeds to snatch cell phones out of the hands of pedestrians. In Maryland, a mother is suing the Department of Homeland Security because she blames Mayorkas' agency for the rape and murder of her daughter by a suspected gang member who entered the United States illegally. Meanwhile, Oklahoma is in a running battle with Mexican and Chinese organized crime groups whose members entered our country through that southern border. And in, McClintock, Buck and Gallagher, they shrugged. They looked away from all of this and shrugged. As I said, Gallagher's argument was especially galling, and Speaker Johnson should remove him as chair of the CCP committee soon and just as soon as possible. It's sickening to see what those three have done. Democrats have weaponized our government, but Gallagher is worried about what they might do sometime in the future, and the Republicans might have a problem with that. I don't think so, and neither does he. He's lying through his teeth. So do nothing today for fear of a tomorrow that may or may not come. That is serious and it's stupid. A Morning Consult survey found that 57% of respondents say the United States is now facing a crisis of illegal immigration across the U.S.-Mexico border today, meaning we need action now. But Gallagher couldn't stop gazing into his belly button, looking for some ambiguous omen of the future. Or so he says. Gallagher and his two buddies couldn't even bring themselves to slap Mayorkas on the wrist, to even take note of his duplicity, his dereliction of duty. Instead, they chose to cloak their cowardice in the rags of pretend principle. But Americans are not stupid, and they will not forget the shame of this trio. With us tonight, a great American, a Republican who, by the way, did the right thing when he voted to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. He joins us now, and Congressman, it's great to have you with us. And I'd like to start with your opinion of the timid trio who voted against the Department of Homeland Security's impeachment. Give us your thoughts on that, if you would, Congressman.
I appreciate you having me on, Lou. Sorry, I'm in a traffic jam. You never can plan on these things when you're coming home from D.C. As you know, it's
we're flexible, and I know you are. So we're
yes, sir. Thank you, brother. No, I was completely disappointed. You know, people have said, on what grounds are you, these constitutional people? And I said, what about lying under oath? This guy is pathological. He says the border's secure. People aren't coming over the border. I mean, it's what part of almost 10 million people in 3 years is can anybody see that being feasible? We're at $400 billion a year to upkeep these folks. You're not counting the fentanyl. Hell, excuse my language. Heck, my daughter, I got to put another $1 in the swear jar. But I had in DC this week, I had the narcotics agents come in that were over the organization, over the country, and they said 100%, the cartels are pushing fentanyl over the border. I mean, that's where it's all coming from. The others are just, minor in comparison. And to think that this guy is sitting up there and telling us that our border is secure, I mean, he's an anarchist. And again, I can't stress this enough. These people hate our country, Lou. They hate everything you and I stand for. They hate traditional values. Right. They hate our military. They hate they hate our school systems. They hate our health care. And that's why they're trying to destroy all those things. They want to destroy it and then create some kind of Marxist state. It's the only thing is the only thing they're after. And at this stage, I think America needs to wake up and say it is time to take a stand. And again, we're going to have to do it at the polls, or we'll lose our country.
You know, when you say that America's going to have to wake up, and I really believe this. I think most Americans are awake. Who I think's most asleep, actually, is in the leadership of the Republican Party, including those on Capitol Hill, whether it's in the Senate or whether the House. The country understands what's happening to them. These illegal immigrants are coming into their communities, dropped in the middle of night, thanks to the puppet president. I mean, it's just impossible to call him even a puppet president to me. He's run by a group of people, Marxist Dems, who are, as you say, trying to destroy the country. And when I see the Senate Majority Leader come out with this so-called border bill, it's what it is a ruse to get $60 billion for Ukraine, for crying out loud. This is disgusting duplicity on the part of the Republican leadership in the Senate. And I want to compliment Mike Johnson. The Speaker actually said it's dead on arrival, and this was before it was killed in the Senate. So there are reasons to hope that the Republicans in the Congress are waking up. But when you have three individuals, including Mike Gallagher, the head of the CCP, have the guts to vote against impeaching the man who is he's in league with the Mexican drug cartels, whether directly or indirectly, because there's a direct line between China with the precursors for the fentanyl, and across that border into the United States, and 100,000 plus die every year because of it. I don't understand why the leadership wouldn't. I think that without any question, Johnson should just take Gallagher and throw him off that chairmanship immediately. It's disgusting that he would be in that role. What do you think?
Well, they said, I read a report yesterday that listed the largest growing group of people that are coming over our border are Chinese nationals. You got to ask yourself, Lou, the Chinese don't do anything. They don't do anything without a purpose. They've got that 100-year plan, and we've got a 30-second plan. You're exactly right. The Senate, this bill, at 5,000 a day. I was on one of the national networks, ABC, I think, and the lady said, "Well, Congressman, no, that's where you're wrong." She said, it creates a trigger at 5,000 that after 5,000 encounters a day, it shuts the border down. And I said, "So you're telling me, ma'am, 4,999 is okay?" I said, multiply that by 365 and then get back to me. The only negotiation we have is zero over that dadgum border. There's no way they can shut it down with what they're talking about. And then they have the gall with a straight face to say that we're not dealing in good faith. We're not willing to negotiate. We're not putting anything on the table. When we put HR 2 on the table months ago, as you well know, and that would have fixed the problem. It wasn't full of a bunch of fluff. Right. It didn't have money for Ukraine, as you said. This is a Ukraine funding bill. The largest single item in this bill, I think it's $114 billion, was $60 billion just straight up to Ukraine. Now, all this other stuff, you got attorneys and all this other garbage, and it's also another federal employees relief act. And then, of course, they come out and say, well, the union's for it. Well, let me tell you something. The union represents its people. But I represent 400,000 hardworking over 400,000 hardworking East Tennesseans. They got a job to do, and I got a job to do. But I want to tell you, all they're after is more pay for their people. Their backs are against the wall. They know it. Their morale is horrible because this worthless president has just lied once again, and the national media takes it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I have to say that tolerating this is disgusting and appalling to all of us. Doing nothing about it is even more to me intolerable. And that's where we are. Congressman, we appreciate you being with us, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Stay safe.
Lou, thank you so much. And I can't tell you how many people in East Tennessee tell me when I'm on here that they've seen me, and it's a pretty good demographic too, brothers. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for having me. What an honor it is for me as I watch you, in my politically formative years, and you're a stand-up dude. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Congressman, and my respects back. We appreciate everything you do. God bless. Coming up next, the RNC could be getting new leadership after a report claiming Ronna McDaniel is going to step down later this month, right after the South Carolina primary, as it is now planned, apparently. But has the damage already been done? Founder and CEO of MyPillow, Frank Speech, Lindell TV, who ran against Ronna McDaniel this summer, he'll be here to talk about the RNC and the path forward for election integrity. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. Republican voters are finally getting some change in the party's leadership. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel is resigning after the South Carolina primary later this month, according to reporting from CNN. McDaniel has had conversations with former President Trump about allowing him to install her successor. Trump weighed in on the news in a post on Truth Social just hours after he had met with McDaniel at Mar-a-Lago, saying, quote, "Ronna is now head of the RNC, and I'll be making a decision the day after the South Carolina primary as to my recommendations for RNC growth." That from President Trump. In a recent interview on Newsmax, the former president said even McDaniel knows it's time for her to step down.
About the RNC, there's a lot of criticism. The fundraising is an issue. Hasn't been a good past couple election cycles at all. 2022 should have been far better than it was. I think we can all agree on that. Is it time for Ronna McDaniel to step aside?
Well, I think she knows that. I think she understands that.
So what is this really about? President Trump had previously endorsed each of Ronna McDaniel's campaigns for RNC chair. She held the position for an unprecedented 4 terms. So what happened? Well, sometimes the results are the explanation. The answer is simpler than you might think. It comes down to results. President Trump doesn't seem to have any personal animus towards McDaniel. His Truth Social post referring to her as a friend indicates as much. But the fact is, McDaniel failed to produce success that once catapulted her to the position she holds, the success of President Trump. She first became RNC chairwoman after helping deliver Michigan to President Trump in 2016, which was the first time a Republican had won the state in literally decades. But that success has been hard to replicate, and it has been absent since that victory nearly 8 years ago. The 2022 midterms are only the latest example. Republicans should have picked up more seats in the House and the Senate, and record inflation and disastrous poll numbers for Joe Biden all present. A lot more should have happened. And more recently, in what appears to be the last straw, the RNC's historically poor fundraising. Last week, the RNC posted its worst fundraising numbers in nearly 30 years. It's effectively broke. The RNC had nearly $2 million in debt and just $8 million cash on hand. It spent a meager $87 million it raised last year. The last time the RNC raised less than $100 million in a year was 1997. Oh, by the way, they did get a credit line for $10 million. Add that to the problem. What's worse is how the RNC spent that little money that it did raise. According to last year's disclosures, the RNC spent nearly $2 million on floral arrangements, limousines, and consultants. That's more than it spent on voter file maintenance, for crying out loud. The Democratic National Committee, by contrast, 3 times as much money raised. The DNC raised over $120 million last year, spent far less on travel and meaningless consultants, office supplies, and I didn't see an expense line on the DNC list for Botox at all. Strange. And the expense of campaigning for president has dramatically risen in 8 years. President Trump's 2016 campaign proves that, as he was outspent and out-fundraised, and he still won. But this year's election will be even more expensive, and being low on campaign funds will only make the job harder. It makes it harder to combat the Marxist Democrat lies in the media, the paid media, the Marxist Dems, and the deep state interference in the election. All those lawyers add up. And advertising directly to voters more critical than ever. Let's hope the next RNC, chair is better than the last. The fate of the next election, and by extension the country, depends on it. Speaking of the election, the Nevada primary was last night. As we previously reported to you, President Trump was not on the ballot as he had chosen to participate in the state's caucus, which is tomorrow. Nevada law allows candidates to only participate in one contest. Nikki Haley chose poorly. She did participate in the primary. She was on the ballot. She basically had a handful of opponents, but amazingly, she lost to a category called none of the above, and by a substantial margin. We're not kidding. None of the above beat Nikki Haley. That looks like a problem to me. Over 60% of voters chose none of the above as their preferred candidate, while Nikki Haley received just about 30% of the vote. That's quite a margin. If that's not a sign that voters are rejecting you, well, I can't imagine what that would take. Well, joining us now to react to all of this is founder and CEO of MyPillow, Lindell TV, and Frank Speech, Mike Lindell. Mike, good to have you with us. And I want everybody to understand that Mike Lindell is a true patriot, and no one has worked harder for electoral integrity than has Mike, and no one has sought more reform and urged reform at the Republican National Committee than Mike Lindell. Mike, thanks for being with us. You have been seeking reforms for some time. Your reaction as you learned that Ronna McDaniel is going to be leaving the RNC. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a celebration, Lou. Seriously, that's why I originally ran for RNC. They didn't do the one thing they should have been doing for the past 5 years, securing their election platforms. Ronna said she was going to do all this. She hasn't done it. She hasn't done anything since it's been another year gone by. And we need someone in there, and I have great people in mind, a specific person in Julian Murray, chairwoman of Delaware. I mean, you've got to get someone in there that secures our elections or does everything that we've been doing with the Lindell plan and everything that we've been doing. I have over 300,000 people on the ground in all 50 states. Everything we've been doing for 3 years, I told those 168, that's what you all should be doing. All the donor money coming in should be flooding to secure our elections and go to these states and get rid of these things that dropping 7 million ballots all over Michigan or going up to Pennsylvania, finding out why they have more votes than voters. These things should have been done a long time ago, but the time is now. It's got to start from the top, and Rana's not the answer.
She's not the answer, and as the president has made it clear that he is not going to refuse her resignation when it's proffered. But the president is, I think at this point, he's signaled pretty clearly that he was distressed with her performance and that changes had to come. She was insistent that she not. I think I want to point out to folks something that I think many people who don't always watch this show might not realize, and that is Mike successfully got a resolution out of the RNC that called for reform of the election system and electronic voting. Tell everybody about that resolution. There are 16 elements to it, but the most important within that.
Right. And this was last January, everybody. When I ran for RNC chair, the great thing that came out of there is you have the RNC, it's kind of like a third. You have a third, I call them the uniparty establishment. They're not on the people's side. This middle third here that kind of goes with the wind. And then you got the third over here that has the people's back, what we need in our country. And that third, as I engaged with them all, they manifested out of that and was this resolution that was passed 1 week after the event that we did in Missouri, that we did this in August and announced our plan to the country to secure our elections. One of the things we needed, everybody, was this resolution from the RNC. Paper ballots, hand counted, same day voting, precinct level, signature required. Those are the big five. This would be, and when they say, well, what does that resolution mean, Mike? It means that 168-0, it was voted in. If we could ever get to this point, this would be the gold standard of an election, just like you have in Taiwan and the Netherlands and the UK, Germany, France, other countries have it. We need it here. And what it does, Lou, is this gives us a great tool when we go back into these counties now, as we unfold our plan in March. If any of these uniparty Republicans stop us, or any of the GOP, and go, well, we really like our machines, we're going to go, read your resolution. You said it, when you passed the resolution, you were one of the 168.
Well, and everybody should know that your suspicions and criticism of electronic voting machines was borne out in an Atlanta courtroom when the leading authority on these machines, Professor Alex Halderman, in the courtroom before the judge, the federal judge, with a Bic pen, manipulated that machine. He absolutely demonstrated that it was hackable and could be manipulated. And it's a remarkable, I think we're seeing some momentum toward clarity and truth. I want to, as we close here, Mike, get your sense of who should take over the RNC.
Only one name comes to mind, and that's Julianne Murray. She's the chairwoman of Delaware. She was one, I think within a vote or two of even being the attorney general. And she also, she fought and stopped mail-in ballots in Delaware. She single-handedly, she just fought and won it. And she would be amazing. And I've been saying this, I don't care. All these other picks out there, you better show me one that's better, because there isn't one. Now, I'm going to be calling her. I don't know if she'd be open to running, but I believe she would. I've heard she would, and I'm going to find out firsthand when I give her a call.
Well, if I'm not wrong, I believe she's scheduled as a guest here on this show tomorrow evening.
Oh, well. Well, you tell her she's got my endorsement, Lou. She's got my endorsement, I'll tell you.
I'll do it. It sounds like more than endorsement. It sounds to me like it's going to be advocacy for some time from Mike Lindell. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, Lou.
Mike is You bet. Thank you for being here. He has done these things to, I mean, he talks about electoral integrity. He does something about it. He has spent a fortune trying to improve the election system to great effect. You just heard about the 16-point resolution by the RNC. The issue is leadership that will absolutely implement those resolutions. Coming up here next, the Supreme Court set to hear arguments about whether former President Trump has the right to be on the ballot in Colorado. Isn't that an interesting way to put it? Do they have the right to keep him off? That's really the case. It has huge implications for states across the country. Julie Kelly of Real Clear Investigations. She is the one reporting on the Democrats' legal warfare being waged against President Trump, his political persecution incessant for the past 8 years. She joins us here next. Stay with us.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Well, welcome back. As we told you yesterday, the Federal Appellate Court in Washington ruled that former President Trump does not have immunity from criminal prosecution in that January 6 trial, despite the fact that he was president at the time. This ruling is bizarre, and the three-judge panel wrote that, quote, for the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant, but any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution for while he was president. Now, that's an interesting interpretation, but it's pure bunkum, given the fact that President Trump was president on January 6th. It doesn't take a big legal mind to deal with that reality, but for some reason, three big legal minds couldn't come together with that reality. By their logic, you could prosecute a president for anything, the moment that they leave office, even for acts they committed while they served as president, because they no longer have immunity for the things that they did as president. This is clearly specious nonsense. And it's clear this panel of judges is not concerned with the precedent they've set. Neither is the Justice Department, which is prosecuting Trump. By the way, they've been part of what is a political persecution that has entered now its ninth year. In a real democracy with a free and independent media, journalists would be noticing these dangers and this political persecution of one man, the President of the United States, and what that means to our system of government. But that's not what we have in this country right now. We have a cabal of both ignorant and cackling buffoons who masquerade as journalists and serve their interests of their masters in the Marxist Democrat Party. Here's how they reacted to yesterday's news.
We have waited weeks for this decision. Many lawyers were getting more and more anxious, thinking this was not going to go the way they thought it should.
It was helpful, I think, for us as a country in talking about this, that they did outright mock the claims that you have to be impeached and convicted in the Senate before you could be put on trial for committing murder or committing any of these other crimes.
And so this is one of those opinions that says to America It says to every high school history student in America, you're not crazy. It's what you thought.
Yes,
it's what
correct.
we've always thought for the entire history of the Republic. This is the way it is.
Yesterday, a D.C. federal appeals court unanimously, and this includes people that he's appointed, ruled unanimously that he's wrong. They found that he can be put on trial for trying to hold on to power after losing the 2020 election.
Well, just for the record, he didn't lose the election. It was taken from him. And the proof is in the public arena. There are those who choose to notice it, and there are those who choose not to. They're from the latter club. Notice that audience clapping as the women of The View were celebrating their complete transformation into a third world banana republic. They'd like to have that same treatment for the entire nation. In many ways, the court's ruling was not a surprise, as journalist Julie Kelly reported last week. One judge on that panel, Judge Florence Pan, is married to a Democratic operative who is fervently anti-Trump and, oh yes, anti-conservative justice on the Supreme Court. Her husband is a man named Max Stier. Stier was a member of President Clinton's legal defense team during the Lewinsky scandal. Stier is also on record calling January 6th, the very matter in question, a, quote, violent insurrection against Congress, end quote. What an interpretation. President Trump has just a few days to appeal the immunity decision by that appellate court, filled with, brimming with left-wing Marxist adherents, appeal that decision to the Supreme Court, unanimous or not. But as we also told you yesterday, there's no guarantee what the Supreme Court will do with this case. The Supreme Court is hearing arguments tomorrow regarding Trump's right to be on the ballot in the state of Colorado. That state's Supreme Court, in an obvious political decision, ruled that President Trump violated the 14th Amendment and committed insurrection against the United States. Impeachments, courts, arrest records, all of them contradicting that view. The court argued that he should be barred from holding office based on their definition. But this case has much broader implications than Colorado. If the court were to uphold Colorado's decision, it will open the floodgates for other radical and corrupt Marxist state governments and courts, and there are many across the country, to remove Trump from the ballot. They would effectively be eliminating the will of the people and tens of millions of voters, which is somewhat ironic considering that it's the very thing they accuse President Trump of. How's that for an attack on democracy? And now here is Julie Kelly. And Julie, great to have you with us. You've been doing an immense amount of reporting, excellent reporting on what is happening in the, if you will, the D.C. Court system. And I'm fighting every adjective I can to avoid anything. But it's remarkable what this president is up against in that court. And your reporting on the appellate court, I have to say, was eye-opening and deeply concerning. Give us your sense of what is the situation right now for the president, whether it be the Supreme Court, the appellate court, any one of a number of district courts.
So I'm actually in Washington today. I'm planning to try to cover the oral arguments tomorrow, Thursday, on the Supreme Court's hearing of the Colorado Supreme Court ruling that concluded that Trump was involved in an insurrection, therefore violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment and cannot run for office. So as you know, they kicked him off the ballot. There's a stay on that. He's actually on the ballot for the March 5th primary in that state, but the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments on Thursday morning in that case, and they will decide whether to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court 4-3 ruling on that matter. So that is just going to be the first of several clashes or several issues that the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to take up for 2024 election matters. And of course, we know now with the immunity ruling that came down this week from the 3-judge panel, 2 Biden appointees and 1 George H.W. Bush appointee, that also concluded, as did Judge Chutkan, that a president can face criminal prosecution. This is groundbreaking, historical rulings, and that too is expected or could end up at the Supreme Court soon as well.
Well, I thought your analysis was, as usual, insightful and, again, troubling. This appellate court is made up not just of Democrats or Democrat appointees and a George H.W. Appointee, but they are a part of it seems to me to be a culture of the Marxist left in Washington, D.C. Give us your sense about what appears to be extraordinary activists and even advocates on the part of these two appointees by Joe Biden.
Right. So one of the judges on the 3-judge panel is a Biden appointee named Florence Pan. Now, Florence Pan was nominated by Joe Biden to the D.C. District Court. And then she followed Ketanji Brown Jackson. I want to say Brown Jackson, when she was elevated to the Supreme Court. Florence Pan again followed her seat on the D.C. Appellate Court. So Florence Pan is, of course, indebted to the president who put her in this powerful position. But more so than that, her husband is a man named Max Stier. He runs a very well-known nonprofit in Washington. He's been a Democratic Party activist for decades. And he's working hand in hand with the Biden administration to prevent Donald Trump, if he wins, from initiating civil service reforms that would make thousands of government employees political appointees and subject to firing. Max Stier is working with the Biden administration now to put in place, I guess, mechanisms that would prevent Trump from doing that if he's elected again. More so than that, Lou, Max Stier, and some of your viewers, I'm sure, recall this name. He was one of the Brett Kavanaugh accusers. He contacted the FBI and Democratic senators in 2018, claiming that he had seen lewd behavior by Brett Kavanaugh when they were both freshmen at Yale. And so he is this well-known Brett Kavanaugh accuser. He was just in a documentary released last year about Judge Kavanaugh and the confirmation process. So how can, on one side, you have Democrats calling for Clarence Thomas to step down because of his wife Ginny's political activism, but yet you have Judge Pan, who is in this very powerful position, one of the 3 judges who concluded that Trump can face criminal prosecution and trial, married to this very well-known Democratic Party activist who's working with the Biden administration. I mean, to your point, such is the swamp, and such is what we see coming out of this D.C. courthouse.
It is, I have to tell you, it is breathtaking to watch the internecine construction of all of the, really the judiciary in that town, if we can still call it a town. They're married. They're associates over decades of time. They are unto themselves an organism of that is Marxist, that is destructive of everything I think that represents the American way. And they don't even hesitate to ignore those conflicts and contradictions with the law that they are supposed to be judging and interpreting and applying. It's, to me, whether Tanya Chutkan is one of the best examples, a district court judge that who is now, she's on sabbatical, I guess, because she doesn't have to worry about the trial until the immunity question is resolved, and ultimately that one assumes will be the Supreme Court soon. Give us your thoughts on that, because there again, you have an activist. She is married to the ideology, quite literally. You're thinking.
Right. So Judge Tanya Chutkin is the Obama appointee who is overseeing handling Jack Smith's January 6, 2020 election related indictment in Washington. She is the one that issued the historic ruling that a president can face criminal prosecution. This is what the three-judge panel upheld this week. She has acted as nothing more than a rubber stamp for the Department of Justice, as almost all of the judges in this DC courthouse do. She set an expedited trial schedule. Jack Smith indicted Donald Trump on August 1st. She set a March 4th trial date. Most January 6 trials take anywhere between 12, 14, sometimes 18 months, 24 months before they go to trial. Yet here she set this compressed 7-month trial schedule, apparently not anticipating this huge immunity issue that, because it could be appealed before conviction, put the pretrial proceedings on hold. And so that's what that did. That's why she formally, officially vacated the March 4th trial date last week, said, we have to wait until question is resolved, presumably at the Supreme Court. So, but I'll tell you what's interesting, Lou, is that because she has put the trial schedule on hold, any time that elapsed between then and when this issue is resolved will be added to the trial schedule. If the Supreme Court resolves this in May, let's say, she's going to have to add then 5 months to what was the pretrial schedule, putting the beginning of the trial date in October of this year, as Americans are voting for president. So this is a possibility, and it will really be left up to the Supreme Court at this point.
As we wrap up here, we're a little bit over time, but what do you think in terms of the immunity question that begins to come into focus now for the High Court? I can't imagine, and based on your analysis, I can't imagine that they would. Well, I'll put it this way: I can't imagine, but I would doubt that they would fail to provide some immunity, at least some immunity, to the President of the United States. Otherwise, it'll be open season on presidents forevermore.
Well, as you know, Lou, it's hard to anticipate what we see coming out of this Supreme Court. So there's a chance that they could deny cert altogether and not hear it and just leave the appellate ruling stand. So people should brace themselves for the unexpected out of the highest court.
Well, unfortunately, after that 5-4 decision against the state of Texas and aligning the court with the Mexican drug cartels and the open border Biden administration, as you say, we'll be ready for anything, or we'll try to be anyway. Julie Kelly, as always, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Julie Kelly, Real Clear Investigations. Coming up, if you listen to the media, we have the safest, most secure elections in the world. But one state has just been caught counting absentee ballots that were received after Election Day. Well, that was the one that got caught. Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch is suing, and he joins us here next. And please join us each and every day for my podcast, 7 days a week, The Great America Show podcast, available at loudobbs.com, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We'll be there waiting to serve you. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. If you care about election integrity, you'll be happy to hear about what Judicial Watch is doing in the state of Mississippi. There, Judicial Watch has filed a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of the Libertarian Party. Its objective to challenge a state election law that permits absentee ballots to be received up to 5 business days after Election Day and be counted. The filing argues that this law flies in the face of Congress's unambiguous and long-standing statement regarding a single and uniform national election day. The only people who might legitimately need an extended window like this are some serving in the military, but Mississippi goes further than that, according to the complaint. As many as 1.7%, almost 2% of votes cast in Mississippi in 2020 were received after Election Day. It seems Judicial Watch is one of the only watchdog groups truly dedicated to election integrity. It's fought from Los Angeles County to New York City to purge ineligible voters from voter rolls, and they're often viciously attacked for doing so. But that's what happens when you're in the arena fighting for good causes. And now we're happy to be joined by Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Tom, great to have you back with us. Let's talk about all of the court action. We're going to be talking about all the Judicial Watch action as well here in just a moment. But with everything happening in the D.C. courts, this is dizzying, I think, to most people to see what all is going on in the judiciary, a hostile judiciary to this president. Your thoughts about particularly tomorrow, the Supreme Court taking up the Colorado ballot case?
Well, you had Democrat partisan judges in Colorado essentially throw Trump off the ballot based on fake allegations that he engaged in insurrection. And one of the key bases for that was pretending that the January 6th report by Nancy Pelosi was a serious investigation, a document. And of course, the 14th Amendment, as written, doesn't apply to the president, and certainly doesn't allow states willy-nilly to just throw presidential candidates off of the ballot because they find in some sort of Star Chamber-like proceeding that the person engaged in insurrection. And I would hope the Supreme Court just says no to this. And I'm hoping even the Democrats on the Supreme Court, the Democratic appointees, don't buy into this effort to tear apart our nation. And to take a step back from the legal and constitutional fights, Lou, this is an effort by the Democratic Party and their allies in the courts and in civil society to turn the country into a one-party state. When you seek to remove the leading opposition candidate from the ballot, what better way than to say what better way to achieve that goal in terms of just having Joe Biden on the ballot? Is that what they really want in several states across the nation? Yeah. And of course, if that's the new rule, you can be sure that many will be asking to remove President Biden from the ballot because he's, quote, an insurrectionist, unquote, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is the most provocative act to date taken. And there have been many. But this is the most provocative act by the Marxist Dem Party, trying to stop President Trump's candidacy and his return to the White House. I have to say, if they take this much further, this is going to become a highly untenable, destabilized moment in our history and in our society. Because while I'm not suggesting it would end in civil war, I am suggesting to you that it will probably result in some sort of breach of civic order that is all on the backs of these Marxist Dems who are getting exactly what they want. All of the chaos, all of the storming in our public square.
No, I think it is destabilizing, and what the consequences are going to be, it's unclear. But the left has been inciting insurrection for some time. They did it in 2020. You can be sure they're going to do it again this year. Remember the rioting in 2020. And they were planning quite literally, and according to the New York Times, they were wargaming scenarios in which states threatened to secede from the Union unless they got the Electoral College count they wanted in Congress. So it was the left that was actually planning for that type of disruption to the body politic. And then on top of that, you had the decision earlier this week added to the D.C. Appellate Court, which is an anti-Trump court, upholding Judge Chutkan's anti-Trump decision that puts Trump in legal jeopardy and puts criminal liability on him for actions he took as president of the United States, something that's never been done before in American history. I mean, it's like they don't care about our constitutional structure anymore, and it's because they want to get Trump, they'll tear apart our system of government to do it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt that three judge appellate panel, I don't know if they read the Constitution, or even thought for a moment to apply it, because there is nothing in it that is consonant with the Constitution, in my judgment. And by the way, I think each one of us, layman like me, whoever you are, you can read English, you can read the Constitution of the United States. It is not complex, and that's one of its principled, just wonderful qualities. It is designed for we the people, so we know our rights, so we know what's going on. We don't need a bunch of ideological activist buffoons in these courts telling us how they've organized around a concept that puts Governor Greg Abbott in a position where he has to accept a thundering invasion of the state of Texas because Joe Biden, the impaired puppet president, doesn't want to defend the nation's sovereignty. This is crazy stuff, Tom.
Well, the challenge in this day and age is that the courts that we are supposed to rely upon to dispassionately apply the law have let, beyond all recognition, politics get in the way of their judicial decision making, especially when it comes to issues related to President Trump. And President Trump, in my view, the courts have failed, and his civil rights have been abused. He's been abused. And of course, we suffer that abuse too, because other citizens the left has gone after who dared to dispute the Biden election. And then on top of that, when a candidate for office like Trump is being victimized and having his civil rights suppressed and his election interfered with, his campaign interfered with, that impacts people who support him in the public square as well. So this is an attack on all of us when the courts go rogue and go political.
Well, absolutely. And we've got just about a minute, but I want to turn to your lawsuit in Mississippi and the idea of processing ballots improperly there. What is your suit going to? I mean, we're talking about we're relitigating, past elections. I don't think there's anything wrong about it because we don't know the truth about 2020. We know the truth, but we can't prove much of that truth. What do you think about your case and its impact?
Well, in Mississippi, we're suing on behalf of the Libertarian Party down there who oppose counting ballots that arrive up to 5 days after Election Day. It's contrary to federal law, which sets an election day with very limited exceptions, and obviously that's not met in the ordinary course in Mississippi there. 19 other states have laws like that. In Illinois, we have a challenge that's pending. It's on appeal. They count ballots that arrive upwards of 14 days after election, including ballots that haven't been postmarked. So this is a good way to invite voter fraud. It's a mighty temptation to try to change the outcome of an election if you know ballots are being counted after Election Day, that arrive after Election Day.
Right.
And obviously, it just undermines further the shrinking confidence that voters have in free and fair elections here in the United States.
Well, free and fair we don't have, but we do have Judicial Watch trying to assure that those that are operating as with electoral integrity are known, as well as those who on the Marxist Dim side are meaning to make certain that they decide how this vote comes out, because they want to count the votes as well and decide, as Tom Fenton said, how long it takes to get them counted. Anyway, Tom, is always doing a great job. We thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Tom Fenton, Judicial Watch. And a reminder for all of you out there who are interested in podcasts, we have a podcast, and we invite you to join us each and every day. That's right, it comes 7 days a week. Our podcast, The Great America Show, it's available at LouDobbs.com, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The Great America Show podcast is waiting for you. Thanks for doing so. A fun story before we go. Pop star Taylor Swift is bringing out the Brinks truck to attend the Super Bowl. She's not filling it up as usual. Instead, she's going to be spending quite a hefty sum. Page 6 of the New York Post reporting Swift would pay $3 million for that private suite to watch the game at Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. Reportedly, the last luxury suite still available, and lucky for them, there is Taylor Swift. $3 million. That's the price of that game. When you're not a billionaire like Swift, I'm thinking perhaps a lower seat would be in order. I know it would be for me. Thanks for being with us. Join us here tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern. We have another big show for you. Attorney in Delaware, Republican Chair Julianne Murray joins us. She thinks she can beat Joe Biden in his home state. And radio host Mark Simone and longtime insider at the National Security Agency and whistleblower Russ Tice joins us here. You don't want to miss any of that. The Lindell Report is next. You don't want to miss that either. Here's Mike. Good night and God bless you.